Groot is quietly becoming one of the strongest tanks in Marvel Rivals thanks to his very unique kit. A brawler tank boasting surprising range and some of the highest DPS in the entire tank class, Groot has the capability to take over fights in ways no other tank possibly can. His walls are a powerful tool but can be an annoyance to enemies and teammates alike, so let's not waste any more time. Let's learn exactly how to use all of Groot's abilities. Here are 10 actually useful tips to level up your Groot game. Tip number 1 is recognize that Groot only has one effective playstyle, which is brawling. Groot has virtually no range at all outside of one ability, which is on a 6-second timer. His primary fire is literally a melee attack, and while it does extend a little bit, let's not act like he can even get close to medium range combat. I wanted to put this tip first before we get to the technical stuff because I see too many Groot players be hesitant and afraid to get in and get involved. It's okay to be a heal-thirsty or heal-dependent Groot because that is what the character is built for. You have to get in there, you have to be taking damage and dealing damage and trust your healers to heal you in the backline. As long as you don't cut them off with your own walls, Groot is meant to be getting in there and getting involved. It's okay to take a lot of damage, he's worth the risk. Now let's get technical. Tip number 2 with Groot's Thorn Lash walls, always fight with the Thorn Lash wall's assistance. Groot's primary fire is decent for dealing out good damage, but he really shines and becomes one of the highest DPS characters in the game once you put a wall behind. As you can see, you hit one time with the primary fire, and the wall comes out and hits as well. This will work for as many walls as you can put down, which is a maximum of 3. See, both walls will reach out and slap, meaning he can deal insane amounts of damage as long as he's throwing down as many walls as possible. The walls are fairly forgiving as well. As you can see, this wall is 5 meters away exactly from Luna Snow, and it will reach all the way out and hit her, meaning that you can just throw down walls in the middle of a fight, and even if they're not perfect or the enemy isn't standing up against the wall will still reach out and get the job done. When you're able to get all 3 walls down in the same area and strike an opponent, it can lead to devastating results, nearly one-shotting the squishiest characters in the game. Even tank characters don't stand a chance against this type of damage, so always make sure you're playing with the most walls you can. And look at this, you could 3-shot tanks if you've got these walls down. Before we get to tip number 3, if you guys aren't subscribed and have been enjoying the guides recently, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton and it's free for you. So again, thank you, and let's get on to the next tip. Tip number 3, let's talk about that Ironwood wall. His Ironwood wall is built to sustain your health rather than to block damage. Your bigger wall, which is the Ironwood wall, is crucial for your survivability. As you can see, you stand next to it. When you deal damage, you will receive extra health, all the way up to a maximum of 1,100 health. It is an extremely valuable tool that you need to be using at all times. This is how Groot becomes one of the tankiest characters in the game, and it's actually quite a forgiving distance that the Ironwood wall will activate. Ironwood wall will give you bonus health not just for your own damage, but for teammates' damage as well. So as you can see, I've put the wall down here, and that bot over there, dealing damage to that robot over there, is giving me bonus health. As you can see, it's going up with each time this robot is shooting that robot, so I can get up to 1,100 health just by my teammates doing damage. So trust me, throw down this wall as often as you can, keep it safe. You don't need to be using this wall as an obstruction, you need to use it to farm this extra health for Groot. Tip number 4, let's talk about how to use Groot's ult to its maximum potential. When you use Groot's ultimate ability, you want to have most of your abilities available for you so you can deal the maximum amount of damage while your opponents are trapped within your ultimate. I like to throw the ultimate down, slap down a wall or two, punch, and then throw my grenade. So that way you've got extra damage from the wall, extra damage from your ult, your melees, and your primary fires, and the little spore bomb. That is the maximum amount of damage you're able to get. So try and have at least your spore bomb and your thorn lash wall on cooldown so you can use it in combination with your ultimate. These next 3 tips are all about where you should be placing your walls, including tip number 5, you should always place thorn lash walls behind your enemies when you're trying to attack them. Placing these walls behind your opponent accomplishes 2 things. First, it likely cuts off their source of heals, as their healers are usually playing in the back line, so as you push forward and you're fighting a tank, you'll be cutting off their source of heals from behind while having a source of damage from behind. Secondly, this cuts off any avenue of escape, so if the enemy tank is trying to retreat from you, they will back up into your wall and it'll allow you to punch them and deal more damage for a longer period of time. Also, just naturally, when you place these walls behind them, it's usually outside of their camera range, so they won't see it right away, even though though they're in third-person mode. Tip number 6 with placing the walls, make sure to use the walls to cut off popular choke points near the end of rounds to secure yourself an easy victory. Most maps have 1 or 2 main hallways that people will use as they come back from respawn, so especially on push the payload maps when you're on offense and you're pushing the payload to its final checkpoint, you can throw down Groot walls in the main hallway the enemies will respawn in and prevent them from contesting your payload to get an easy checkpoint. Same goes with domination. If you know that you're at 90% of the way to completing the round, go ahead and run up towards their spawn if they're all dead, throw some walls down, just get them in the way. Buying that extra 5 or 6 seconds is often enough to secure a free round. Tip number 7, this should be an obvious one, but for some people apparently it isn't. Never place your walls behind you and cut off you from your own source of heals. Like we established earlier, Groot's playstyle and kit makes him one of the most heal-hungry characters in the entire game, meaning you are going to need a lot of support from your healers as you are probably their main source of healing. If your healers have 20,000 heals in a game, there's a good chance you were about 12,000 of those heals just by yourself, so make sure to not have any of your own walls behind you that would prevent you from getting heals from your own squad. As a Groot tank more than any other tank, you can sometimes feel like you were left out to dry, so make sure you didn't do it to yourself by placing walls behind you and preventing your healers from helping you out. Tip number 8, let's talk about teamwork. Use Groot's ult as the ability to improve your DPS ults. Certain DPS ults are an area of effect. Think Namor, think Moon Knight, think Psylocke, and the ability to keep a lot of enemies together in one small area will greatly benefit some of these DPS ultimates. In situations where you want to combo ults, Groot's nearly always happens first, so if you're comfortable being on the mic and leading your team, tell your teammates when you're going to use your Groot ult, that way they can have their DPS ults ready to go and you can get the maximum efficiency of both ultimates. Remember, since there's no friendly fire, there's no reason for you to not stand in the middle of your teammate's ultimate and continue to deal out damage through the forms of your Spore Bomb, your walls, and any other ability you have. Get in there, use your regular damage and your ult damage in combination with some of these bigger DPS area of effect ults, and you are going to see a lot of team wipes very quickly. Tip number 9, in a Groot Ditto, make sure to break your opponent Groot's walls early and often to give yourself and your teammates the best chance of survival. If you know your Groot walls are your best tool, it stands to reason that your opponent Groot knows the same thing and is trying to use their walls to destroy your squishiest teammates. It is absolutely your job in this instance to protect your teammates by trying to destroy your opponent's Thorn Lash walls when you get the opportunity to. You're not going to have a Punisher on your team every game, so every once in a while, it's going to be up to you to destroy those Groot walls and make sure you can keep your healers alive. Tip number 10 is simple and easy. In an overtime situation, spam every wall you have on cooldown no matter what. Because all of the walls have a generous range and your enemies will very likely not be focusing on breaking your walls in an overtime scenario, you are going to get a lot of value out of walls in an overtime situation, arguably more than any other time in the game. Because of Groot's insanely high health and damage potential with these walls, the amount of walls you have down in an overtime scenario could very well change the entire game, and you always need to be aware of that. The more walls you have down, the more likely you are to win, and it's as simple as that. And that's it. Those are my 10 actually useful Groot tips. I do hope you learned something in this video, or at least found it entertaining. If you did, please consider sharing it with someone. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.